Okay, here we go, part G, TIAs. Finally, we're going to talk about pass-by trips, which I'm sure you've all been really looking forward to, not least because every time I say the word pass, you wonder, what on earth is it with James's strange accent? Well, long story short, I was born in Canada to British parents, and I have a very strange accent. And the net result is that any time I say an A, I say it very strangely. Anyway, back to the point. Here we go, part the 6, understanding pass-by trips. So you would have noticed a couple of times in the vehicle trip generation for our Bathurst supermarket retail example, this little line here keeps on popping up. Pass-by trips, 25% of retail and supermarket trips. What is this? What are we talking about? Well, they're the trips that aren't new to the network. They're the trips that are generated, and they are just people who are passing by the supermarket who drop in. So they're already on the road network, but they're coming into our supermarket and then getting back on the road network, but they haven't come specifically to our supermarket. So our supermarket hasn't generated this new trip as a new trip. All it's done is reallocated an existing trip. Oops, there we go. So let's look at an example for here on campus. From my office, I quite often have to go to the library and then I come back. That's a primary trip because my primary focus is to go to the library. I also like to go to coffee, so if they opened a new coffee place, well, I'd probably do some primary trips where I go to coffee and then I come back to my office. However, by opening the new coffee place, there's also this new type of trip where I was on my way to the library and I was always going to go to the library, but on my way to the library, I decide to stop in and grab a coffee. And then I leave the coffee place and I continue my trip to the library and then I come back. So it's not a new overall trip because I was always going to be making this primary trip to the library, but it is a new trip to our site and it's a pass-by trip because I was passing by and I stopped in, basically. So how does this work in the context of our actual site? Well, it explains these negatives. So you might have noticed on some of the site trip generation figures, there was actually some negative numbers and they were all on the through movements. And basically what's happening is we're saying in this case here, there's 15 through movements that were through movements and now are becoming left-in movements. So they're included in that, whatever it is, 55 lefts. And then you'll see them again as part of these 15 left-outs. So those 85 trips that are out actually include 15 trips that were people driving in who would otherwise have normally been driving through. So they would have just driven past our old empty site. But now that it's a supermarket, they're going to come in, they're going to do some casual shopping because, I just remembered I need to get some milk or whatever, and then they're going to drive out. But if our supermarket wasn't existing there, they'd still be driving through. They're still on the road network. They're not new trips. They're not primary trips. They're pass-by trips. That's how it works.